at the time I was like in a relationship and it was going well. And like, I remember after we broke up, you know, this was maybe a year after the song had been written, all of a sudden these lyrics start to make a lot of sense. And that's been a theme for a lot of my writing and a lot of the songs that I continue to write. I'll write them in the moment. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, like higher powers were at play there.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's just a constant reminder that, you know, it comes through me, not from me.
Right.
It's always a good hang.
Ooh. It's Brittany, bitch. And we're back.
What a freaking intro, man. Holy crap.
All right.
Do you
So
think-
last week, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you think this is a thing that like podcast people do? They like, they're always like, hey, what's up? And they like grab the back of the mic.
I don't know what it is about me touching it. It's a fixation thing.
Yeah,
I
it
just
feels
like
weird.
touching it.
Yeah, but we do it. I watch us do it the whole time. It's so funny.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's
I
not-
feel like a podcaster.
That's right. Never change.
So last week we talked about me. Today we're gonna talk about my co-host, a guy that likes kicking ass and chewing gum.
And I'm all out of gum.
The one and only Aaron Rizzo.
Ding.
How are you, bro?
I'm good, man.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm excited for this episode. I'm excited
Yeah,
to
me too.
learn. I mean, obviously I know you, but
Getting into some dark shit.
yeah. So Riz is my roommate. We talked about that last week. One of my best friends, one of my favorite human beings. We've been friends about 2 years now.
I guess,
And
yeah.
I feel like I've known you a lot longer, bro.
Yeah, because you came down in January of 23, right?
Yeah.
So
just
almost
about.
almost 2 years, yeah.
You're somebody who I admire in a lot of ways, bro.
Thanks.
You're a person who I feel like I can be my most true self around. You don't pass judgment. You kind of encourage me to be me, and you encourage everyone around you to be themselves. And I think a better way of classifying that is you're an extremely charming guy.
Wow.
And,
Thanks.
you know, you make the people around you feel good when they're in your presence, and it's just a gift, baby. You know, bro, you make people laugh, man. You're a funny cat, and you're incredibly witty. One of the wittiest dudes I know, maybe the wittiest cat I know. And, you know, you can light up a room so effortlessly.
Wow. I feel like you're singing happy birthday to me right now. I don't really know what to do
Dude,
with my hands.
I hate the happy birthday song. That's the most awkward shit ever. I work at a place where we do a lot of those. It's like,
Oh, shoot. I didn't even know that. Sorry.
like
to
I said,
interrupt.
you can light up a room, but you play such a beautiful balancing act of not being like an overbearing presence.
Sure.
You know those alpha guys that are like, they just talk to hear themselves talk.
They're like, I'm in the fucking room now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
those guys.
you're just not like that. You're so charismatic, and you're a great listener, and you give everyone else the opportunity to shine too. And I admire that about you because you're very secure. Yeah, I feel like you're a very secure person, whether you believe that or not.
It's a work in progress.
But you know, you're cool as fuck, and you don't have to prove it. And you know, I've always appreciated how you find the strengths and positive aspects in other people. Like I'll ask you about a local artist, you know, and you never speak poorly about them. You always find the great things about these individuals. And you know, I'm kind of a shit talker sometimes, so it's like, man, that's made me realize like this kid really gets it, and it says a lot about the type of person he is, which is a wonderful person. And
Thanks.
an incredibly gifted musician and an even better friend.
Wow.
So,
And that's a wrap.
so without further ado, it's Riz time. So if you want to do like a broad intro, bro, you know, where are you from? What was your childhood like?
Sure. I was born in the Great White North. By that I mean Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
I think I was born there. Yeah, I was born in Rochester. Wear that like a badge. Yeah, I was born there. I was raised there. I lived there for most of my life. I was lucky my family never moved. And my parents are still in the same house that I grew up in.
Okay,
and,
that's cool.
I don't know if that's going to change in a couple of years, but yeah, grew up in Rochester. And I have a super, super small family. I think there's, if I could guesstimate, maybe like 13 of us and like the whole family.
Wow, that's pretty tight.
Yeah, I have one cousin. It's tight knit, to say the least. To put it politely, you know. If one person knows something, typically everybody knows that thing. It was that kind of family.
Right.
But I was very fortunate. I grew up in a 2-parent household. I count my blessings for that every day, and my parents have been very supportive of my dream. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but being a musician is something I've always known that I wanted to do. I wanted to do it. You know, there's pictures of me as a 4-year-old with a toy guitar, pretending to be a rock star.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, man, I was a bit of an odd kid growing up. I definitely had like issues interfacing with my newfound emotions.
Okay.
I would say, and kind of coming into myself was very, very difficult for me as a kid because I felt a lot, but I didn't really know how to express it.
Right,
and that's still
right.
something that I struggle with to this day, I think. And
I
it's,
feel like as men, we're socialized not to feel those feelings too.
yeah, definitely. There's a system in place there that really sucks. And I don't, I'm still in the midst of exploring why I feel that way, but music has been a tool for me to express how I feel, however dark or however light. So I'm glad that came into my life very young. You know, I grew up in a house where my parents were always playing really good music.
Yeah.
Especially my dad. He has this record collection that's just absurd.
You
know?
dive through it as a kid, kind of?
I tried to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many records. He must have over 1,000 records, at least maybe 2,000 in his
Holy
collection.
crap.
It's insane, dude. I mean, the whole front room of the house is like, it's his little stereo system and just racks and racks of vinyl. It's crazy.
That's
man.
really
And
cool.
yeah, I think that really instilled an appreciation into me very young, like this idea of an album or a body of work. And that kind of became a gateway for me to appreciate other mediums that are bodies of work,
Right.
whether that be a book or like a series of paintings or a series of poems and it's whatever, whatever it may be. But to kind of get back on track, grew up in a household that great music was always being played, and kind of sort of struggled my way through school. I wasn't the best student. I remember you talking last week about, you were a good student. I was the opposite, man.
Really? Because you're such a smart dude, bro.
Thank you.
Was it like that you didn't really care about the stuff you were
Yeah,
studying?
I think so. I think I struggled with people telling me what to do,
Okay.
which now I have a great respect and deference for people, who are more knowledgeable than me. And I try to learn from them whatever I can. And I don't have that feeling in me anymore. That's like, oh, you're in a position of power. Like, I'm not going to listen to you.
Right.
Period. That was a very young trait that I had.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I sort of struggled through school. I kind of struggled with grades, and I just didn't fucking care, really.
I kind of get it. I mean, you knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, for the most part, man. I mean, there was a short stint where I wanted to go into the Navy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there was like a very strange part of my life where that was kind of what I wanted to do, and then I kind of snapped out of that. And no disrespect to anybody who does that, but that is not for me. But yeah, I stayed in New York through college. I went to Ithaca College, where I studied studio recording and concentrated in classical guitar. And then, lived in New York City for a little bit, and then lived in Syracuse for a couple of years, and then eventually in the fall of 23 relocated here to Atlanta.
Right.
So that's like a crash course of like where I was geographically in my life.
What was your favorite part of living in upstate growing up?
The seasons. 100%. I mean, I want to say I loved the music scene in Rochester because it kind of formed me into who I was. And there's a lot of hardcore music and, heavy rock music in that scene. And so I have a deep, deep appreciation in my heart for that kind of music. But thinking broader terms, growing up near the Adirondacks and near Niagara Falls and just the beauty of upstate New York that you've experienced going to Syracuse.
Right. It is beautiful.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I was young, it went from 85 and sunny in the winter or in the summer. And then in the winter, we'd have, 4.5 feet of snow near our mailbox. It obviously doesn't do that anymore, but
right. It's it's funny how different, like up there, it's hard to get a snow day. If it snowed an inch down
Dude.
here, I bet the whole school system would shut down.
I think we maybe got like 3 snow days my whole life.
That's crazy.
It was insane. I mean, I remember walking into high school one day and I get out of my car and I go to walk in. It's so cold. And I check my temperature and it's -40 with the wind chill.
What?
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, why are we here?
Dude,
That
oh
just,
my God.
fed my disdain for the educational system.
That's Antarctica.
Yeah, it was
Jeez.
insane, man. It was so cold. But honestly, in hindsight, like my mom put it perfectly. Now that she's retired, she's like, now that I don't have to go anywhere in the snow. I love the winter because I can make it what I want it to be. You know,
Right.
I can just go for a walk in the cold. And dude, there is literally nothing in this world that is more beautiful than when you're out in the snow and it's silent.
Agreed.
Like you could hear a proton fart. It's so quiet, dude. And like I have not experienced that silence in the deepest of wilderness that I've ever been in. I haven't experienced that kind of quiet.
Right.
And I'm like in the suburbs
Yeah.
and it's winter and it's just completely
Yeah.
silent.
No bugs buzzing. Like
No,
it's
just nothing, man. No cars because everyone, not a lot of people want to go anywhere. But all my memories are so intensely tied to the seasonal changes. And, like Halloween, I always remember what temperature it was. I can feel like being in my Halloween costume and trick-or-treating and like it being cold as fuck,
I feel like
in
you're
October.
a very sensory dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a heightened state of senses. Like
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like a dog. No, yeah. But that stuff just sticks in my mind, man. And I'm grateful to have grown up in a place where, for the majority of my life, there was snow on the ground for Christmas. That's a privilege that a lot of people don't get to
that
experience.
is cool. That is cool.
The thing that Christmas is about, like
Right,
snow on the
right.
ground. We got to see that, wake up on Christmas morning and it's snowing. I'm like, dude, it's Hallmark.
Christmas was special. Yeah, I agree. The seasons and even like Halloween, like the fall, like the leaves, like the crackling,
Dude.
like everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Upstate New York in the fall is unmatched.
Yeah.
It's the best.
So let's dive into like the music stuff.
Okay.
A little bit. I want to talk about some of your like the origins and kind of your influences. Can you tell me about? I mean, you kind of mentioned like your early memories of music. Was there a particular defining moment or turning point when you knew you wanted to pursue it seriously? Was there something that happened?
I don't know. I think it wasn't necessarily one moment, but I remember it was really during high school because I did other stuff. I played soccer and, did random hobbies with my friends and whatnot. And I just started getting really bad at everything but music.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, no shit. This is what I need to do. And it's what I wanted to do. So it wasn't necessarily a surprise, but as a musician, self-doubt has been in my sidecar since the beginning. So it was this reaffirming moment of like, yes, absolutely, this is what you need to do because sorry, buddy, you're not really good at anything else.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like I listened to a lot of interviews with musicians or guitar players specifically, and they have this like moment with like this eureka moment of like, oh, I'm a guitar player. Oh, I'm a musician. I don't like really remember having that moment. It was just like there. It was always
had
there.
An affinity for it. Kind of.
Yeah. There was never a time where I didn't like it and then I did like it.
Right.
It was, I always liked it.
Right.
And I remember begging my parents to buy me this acoustic guitar from Target when I was like 7 or 8. And they're like, all right, if you clean up the yard, we'll buy it. And,
the yard was spotless.
learning capitalism very young. But I cleaned up the yard, and the guitar was $20, man, which at the time for me was like, wow, that's crazy. That's like $1 million.
Right.
And I bought this guitar. I'll never forget. I like picked it up. I'd never played a guitar before. And I wasn't playing chords, but I figured out like how to play Smoke on the Water like day one.
No shit.
I was just like, oh, it's this, and like that's the second note, because like I know what that note sounds like in my head, and I know what pitch it should be, and like so it's like bang, 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 and obviously like the chords were messy and whatever, but I remember my mom being like, we got something. You know? It was crazy, man. It just always made sense, and it's still to this day really one of the only things in my life that really makes sense to me.
Were there any teachers early in your life that had a major impact on you?
Absolutely. Corey Harvin. God, I'm gonna lose my shit if I just got his name wrong, but it's just been a really long time. But Corey Harvin was my first guitar teacher.
Okay.
And then I think he moved. I don't remember why. It was very early into my time with him. I started taking lessons with a different dude. His name was Mike Deary. And Mike is such a badass, and we're still friends to this day. And I took lessons with him for a couple of years. And it got to a point where we were like, what are we really going to do here? And it because I already kind of had basics down, and he was like, I think he knew that for me to progress further, I just kind of had to do it on my own, and, but at that point he started getting me into recording. So I got into recording super young too.
Okay.
And so recording and playing were always very closely tied because of Mike Deary. And he's so cool, man. I mean, he's like, talk about an outdoorsy dude. He like mountain bikes and goes, windsurfing and all this stuff. He's a nut. And I remember he took me mountain biking, and I'm like falling down cliffs and going over the handlebars and shit.
That's cool that you could do things outside of guitar though.
Yeah. And I think I didn't know this at the time, but he was kind of stressing the importance of like, take a break, man.
Right.
Because I'm an obsessive person. Right. Like I have a few things that I'm really obsessed with, and I just hyper fixate on them, and I get tunnel vision, man. And I get so deep into it, and I forget to stop and take a step back and breathe. I get blue in the face because of how hard I choke stuff sometimes.
Right.
That's always been difficult for me, but he taught me to do that really young. He was like, and he wasn't like, hey man, take a break. He was like, do you want to just come mountain biking? And I was like, yeah, that seems cool. We'll do it. So it's like, the subconscious stuff.
Right.
That's why he was such an incredible teacher. Because not only was he teaching me what to do, but he was teaching me how to live with that as my centerpiece.
Right.
How to survive as a musician and a guitar player.
Hell yeah.
It was cool, man. He's a bad man.
Anyone in college that inspired you?
Yeah, Pablo Cohen was my classical guitar professor in college, and he taught me the delicacy of the instrument and how even the smallest noise and the smallest movement can have the greatest impact. A lot of my finger style playing I can kind of attribute to him. My professors, Mike Caprizzo, Alex Perialis, and Brian DeZoritz, they were the recording professors, but they're all musicians. They're gigging musicians. So those guys, a skill that I think I have that I believe to be more important than being a good player is just my etiquette in general around being a musician. And those guys really honed that in. And Alex Perialis, the kind of head professor of the program at the time, gave me my 3 rules for success. And he's like, I swear by this, live by this. And to this day, I'll never forget this. It's be on time, be a good hang, and give a shit.
Be a good hang.
Be a good hang. And nowhere in there does he say, be good at your instrument.
Right.
And I found that fascinating, dude. And
yeah.
I've carried that with me throughout the years. And the people I try to surround myself with are the people that are synergistic, and we can, serve each other and not necessarily play circles around each other. Like, I don't give a shit if you're better than me. Honestly, I want to be the worst person in the room when it comes to being a player, but I just want to be around people that are good hang.
Dude, I love that. Be on time.
Yeah.
Punctuality.
Dude. I get that from my mom. I am a fucking stickler about punctuality, man.
Yeah.
I people are late. I can't help myself. if someone is late and abusing my time, I take it so personally sometimes, and I'm working on it, and I try not to, but it's so hard for me. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, one of my high school teachers said this. He said, "Don't be the guy that shows up a couple minutes late every day. Like, people might not say anything, but they notice it.
They're thinking it.
They're thinking it,
Man. 5 minutes early is 10 minutes late.
Yep.
Be 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch. Yeah.
I love that, bro. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Let's talk about. I'm actually interested to hear some. Were there a particular artist? You mentioned genres and stuff that have influenced you as an artist and your sound.
I mean, it's a lot of people,
Right.
and it changes over time,
Of course.
right?
How about when you were younger?
Man, I was super into country music when I was younger, and there was two sides of my influences, right? I loved listening to country music. I didn't really play in that style or sing in that style because I didn't really start singing until I was older, but I loved rock music, man. Any kind of rock music, especially like, the pop rock of the time, like the Green Day and A Day to Remember and like that post-hardcore stuff. Because I just loved playing power chords fucking loud. You know what I mean? I was so obsessed with this idea of like pushing air with the amp and it being fucking loud and you feeling it and like the rhythm of it all. And so classical music and jazz never really caught my early attention just because I was a little bit more reckless of a player.
Right.
And I just I wanted to sweat, man. So yeah, just rock artists in general, man. Anything that was kind of gritty and aggressive I got into. And then I remember my dad showing me Joe Bonamassa live at the Beacon Theater, and I was in my teens at this point, and I was like, holy shit, man. Like, that guy's really good. And, I don't really listen to him too much anymore, but, he played a big role in developing my chops as a player. And, obviously I'm a white dude, so I had a John Mayer phase. And yeah, dude, Mayer, I would be hard pressed to find a guitar player that has influenced more people in our generation than him.
Dude, he's sick.
And I was no exception to that, man. I had my Mayer phase. I loved John Mayer. So yeah, those were two of the big ones, man. But honestly, the more consistent influences, I'm honestly more influenced by drummers than guitar players, because I'm obsessed with rhythm, man. I like everything in my songs, at least these days. I didn't always let this manifest in my songs, but these days it's like everything is about the drums. Everything is locked with the drums. It's like, because I want to be a drummer.
Drums are huge.
I don't want to fucking play guitar and sing. But yeah, everything revolves around that. Everything revolves around the rhythm section, man. Like, that's my bread and butter. So, people like Steve Jordan and Nate Smith and who else? Carter McLean, just badass groove drummers. I'm not interested in people who can really play super fast or like chop a bunch. I just want like meat and potatoes,
right?
Booty shaking drummers. That's the shit I'm into, man. So those guys really, really influenced me, and I try to draw influence not only from music but just from external sources as well.
Okay,
because it like my ears are always open when I'm living. It's like, if I'm, this might sound like I'm an artist.
Let it rip.
When I'm like walking down the street, hearing traffic and people talking and just the sounds of life, I'm thinking like, how can that translate into something I could record like with the guitar? And I'm super interested in like just making weird noises and trying to be a mouthpiece for non-musical things to become musical. And I've had the opportunity to score a couple films at this point, and that's always fun because I'm like, like hitting the guitar and weird pedal stuff. And it's just like,
yeah, I saw you. I walked in here when you were scoring a film, and you were like, I was like, what the heck is that thing? And you were like, oh, I was rubbing it up against this to make this sound. Then you played it, and I was like, I was in awe of like, you just did that with that. It's crazy to me. Bro.
I think I really do have to attribute it, man, to like the recording and the playing, because the recording software is its own instrument.
Right.
And, you know, we live in the post tape machine age, man. We have the ability to like just manipulate audio both in the computer and outside the computer to a point where it's unrecognizable what instrument is playing. And I think that's so freaking cool, man.
Right,
like I did, you know, 16 years of like being a guitar player. And like now I'm kind of interested in taking that a little bit further and like just using it as a tool. It's not this fucking precious thing anymore to me. Like I don't really care if it's like, you know, a $50,000 guitar or a $500 guitar. It's like, what's right? What's going to serve the song? What's going to serve the purpose that I'm going for? So there's a lot to be explored there. And I never want to feel boxed in with, you know, my preconceived notion of what a guitar should be or what a bass should be or this and that. It's like, oh, you want to put a bass through a guitar amp and then use a slide and then mic it with a shitty mic and then go through this. It's like, fucking do it.
Right.
And it's like, it's probably going to sound sick. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Weird is in, man. I love it.
Hell yeah. All right, Chief. Another question for you.
Okay.
How have you, so you kind of mentioned that, you know, you started out as a guitar player, right? When did the singing come in, kind of? I'd like to hear that. And then I have another question.
I don't necessarily love singing. I like singing. It's a tool for me to express, but like singing.
You're a great singer.
Thanks. I think that's just by happenstance. Like obviously I've worked at it for a long time and you know, I want to be good.
Right.
But it's I just like don't view it as my main thing still. Like in my first band, I only wanted to be the guitar player because I don't like, I feel awkward on the mic. You know what I mean? I don't anymore just because I've done it so much. But at the time, I did not want to be in the spotlight. I was like, I'm going to stand off to the side. And I'm going to rock out and I'm going to sweat over there.
So you were confident about your guitar skills.
Yeah.
Insecure about
singing. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even something I considered.
Okay.
So I wasn't even insecure about it. I was just shy. You know what I mean? Like, but guitar, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. I'm good at this. I know I'm good at this. And,
right.
But at one point in that first band, our singer was, you know, kept missing rehearsals, and it got to the point where we're like, dude, we got to figure something out because we're about to play a gig or whatever.
Right.
And we don't have a singer that knows these freaking songs. Like we're writing new stuff in the rehearsals and, you know, leaving him behind essentially. And I'll never forget, my buddy and I sat down and called him on the phone and we just go, listen, man, we're going to do this without you. You know, we can't depend on you, blah, blah, blah. And like, I remember how heartbreaking that felt to like kick someone out of a band. Like, dude, that sucked.
Yo.
And I remember we hang up the phone and we look at each other and we're like, you're gonna do this? Or you know what I mean? Like, neither of us really wanted to do it, but by default, being the guitar player and like having somewhat of a stage presence, it was like, all right, you're gonna sing, you know. So I just like kind of slid into that position by default, and I like still was reluctant to do it, but we started writing more songs and I started singing them, and I was like, this doesn't sound that bad, you know. And I've always been very insecure about my voice because, you know, how could you not be? It's like the most intimate thing about you as a musician. And
I feel like you always have a warped view of yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And that, you know, I've been doing it long enough at this point to know that. Right. And I know that my opinion is not the objective truth.
Right.
So, you know, whatever I say in the studio, like take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, we did this first record and it's still up. Maybe we can link the first record that I ever sang on in the video. But, you know, we stumbled through it. I had my techniques. I used to lean over. My warm-up technique was I would like lean over a chair and just go, because I thought it like, you know, I thought that was warming up. I never took vocal lessons or anything. And I was same thing with how I felt resistant to school. I was resistant to that because, I had friends that took vocal lessons and did the whole thing. And I was like, they sound like chorus kids. You know what I mean? I was like, I want to sound like a rock star.
I was a chorus kid.
Ugh. No disrespect. But I just didn't want to sound like that. And I didn't realize at the time that like taking vocal lessons isn't going to make you sound like that. Like you're going to sound like that if you want to sound like that.
Right.
And, that type of singing has a place. I mean, that's why Broadway is a thing. And that's why, being in choirs and opera singers, it's like, those are some of the most badass singers in the world, man. Right. But I still had this stupid, but like resistant attitude to vocal training because, I think there was a part of my ego that really wanted to be the kid that like did it without training. I took pride in that. Yeah. And listening back, I was like, could have used a little bit of training on that one. But I don't know, man. It was what it was. And, we were doing the best we could with the resources we were given. And, I still at the time, I was like, fuck, I still don't really want to be a singer. But, if I'm going to do it, let's fucking do it.
Right.
And then, throughout the years, it just kept being something that I just was doing, you know what I mean? And the band after that one, I went back to just being the guitar player. I was like, okay, I stepped out of my comfort zone a little bit for this. I think I'm going to like retreat back into it for a minute. And then at the end of that band, I was like, I think I want to do some solo stuff. I got my own songs that I've started been working on. And so I started doing that. And that's when it stuck. That's when I got to the point where I was just going, all right, I'm going to probably sing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's a good segue into, do you want to talk about any of your projects? How have you seen your music evolve over time? And are you still experimenting? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I think, honestly, experimentation, like we were talking about with the film score, it's always going to be something that I want to do. And I am so close to the recording process and the writing process that like all these stylistic changes to me feel massive. But to the listener, it might just feel like little jumps to the left and right.
But I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Do you believe that in order to be a good artist, you have to keep evolving?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a non-negotiable. It's like move or die.
Right.
I think and you know what, man? Like some artists that stay stagnant become successful. But it's like you have to define success for yourself. Is success being able to sell out rooms or is success being able to sleep with yourself at the end of the night? And that's something I've hyper fixated on throughout the years because I've found myself almost staying in place a little too much. And then I feel like I need to crawl out of my own skin. And it's caused the evolution of my music to be very different from record to record. There's maybe some commonalities that I don't see because I'm too close to it, but I don't know. It's like not something I really think about a lot.
Right. I feel like, at least I see this in the music industry. Like fans will be like, if you make a big change, they're like, what the hell,
yeah.
Or if you don't change enough, they don't like that either. That's not good enough. They're like, this sounds the same as whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess, as an artist who's growing, do you feel like a pressure to maintain kind of an expectation, or do trends matter to you? Do you see these artists like getting big and you're like, does that affect how you operate, or is being like authentic and true to yourself more important? Is there a balance?
Here's the thing. If you're going for sustainability, by the time you recognize the trend, it's too late.
Right.
Someone's already done it and they're going to be the best one at it. True. Because they did it first and they are probably the most unique. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to speak in absolutes because, like think about rock music, it just like kept getting better as time went on. But we live in a time where trends move so quickly that to trend chase is to just chase your own tail. I mean, I'm privileged to work as a producer in the studio with a lot of artists, and I've watched a lot of people try to trend chase, and it buries them, dude.
Right.
They're like always trying to be something that they're not, and they're like, oh, I want it to sound like this song. I'm like, well, that song's already been
Done.
it's not going to sound as good as that song. They already
Right,
did that, and it's
right.
bad, and it sounds great. Like
It's kind of the hack thing.
yeah,
Remember
exactly,
that? It's like,
exactly.
you
That's
know,
in the War of Art.
Yeah.
Like this idea of being a hack, and it's like always just siphoning the teat of a greater work,
Right.
and it's
I think Ruben talks about it too when he's
Yeah.
like, you know, you got to make art that you want to make, that you like to make, and that, you know, if you try to, the definition of a hack is like trying to, because people will like this, let me make it like this.
Right.
'Cause I think people might like that.
yeah, dude, that is like so frustrating, and it's not something that I am exempt from. I mean, I've definitely done stuff like that. I've released songs and then taken them down because I look back, I'm like, dude, I was fucking lying. And this idea of the truth through music is something that I have always just tried to adhere to. I mean, I remember my sister gave me this piece of advice once. She was like, tell the truth and people will like that shit. Verbatim. That's what she said.
That's great advice.
And it is, man. And it's so simple, but like, step back for a minute and think about, okay, what does that mean? What is the truth? Obviously, it means when you write lyrics, you're not lying. You're not making up things about yourself that don't exist. You know, if I wrote in a song like, I'm a millionaire or something, I'm fucking not.
Yeah.
But I think it goes deeper than that. Like, you have to embody the truth as an artist. I think it's in the way you move. It's in today's day and age, it's what you post on social media. It's the way you carry yourself. It's the way you serve others. It's the way you interact with people. Your etiquette at a gig or your etiquette in the studio, man. Just every fiber of your being has to be aligned with the truth. And I'm not the type of person that thinks I can fool my audience. I firmly believe that my audience is a million times smarter than I am, and they can smell bullshit like blood in the water from a mile away,
100,
man.
100.
And like I said, I'm very lucky to work as a producer in the studio, and so I kind of get to learn from other people's mistakes.
True.
In a way, and so many of the artists I work with are like just faking their way through this, and like I've always maintained this opinion that if you walk into my studio and you say, let's make a hit, guess what you're not going to make that day? A hit song. We don't have the power to do that. We don't, like, what becomes a hit song these days is so scattered.
It's out of your control.
Yeah, we don't get to choose. So why do anything but the truth? And it's frustrating to me that, you know, the truth is the uphill battle. It's the path of the most resistance. And to bring it back to Pressfield, like this idea of resistance to the truth, it's like, what is the truth? It's a fucking mirror being held up in front of your face, and it's fucking ugly, man.
And it takes a lot of vulnerability to be truthful.
You have to get the fuck over your insecurities, or at least put them to the side if you want to speak the truth, man. Like, in my writing, I used to be so worried about it being ugly and unpalatable, and I'm like, but that's what's true. That's what I think. That's what if my thoughts are dark, the fucking song's gonna be dark,
Right.
And it was so exhausting trying to uphold this lie of like, you know, I'm this like easygoing singer-songwriter love song guy. Like I'm just not that fucking guy. I'm like, that's not the stuff I'm inspired by, honestly. And like, it's I don't know if it sucks to say I'm inspired mostly by negative things, but like, if this is my way of coping with it and this is my way of making sense of it, then so be it. Like, that's what it's going to be, and my audience will form around that. And if I step to the side and do something different, like the people who don't like it, whatever, listen to the old record or don't listen to me at all. Like, I don't really fucking care. Like, all that matters, you're going to have the ride or die people. Right. All that matters. If you just tell the fucking truth, your people will stick with you.
Yep.
And they'll support you on, you know, your lateral motion through musical styles. And I think when we see these artists who change and people are like, fuck that, it usually ties together with this idea of selling out, which I don't really like that term, because everybody has to sell out a little bit because you want people to hear your shit.
Right.
But you all of a sudden see this artist that you love and that, you know, means so much to you, you see them put out a record that's just bullshit. Like lyrically it's bullshit, and you could tell everything, like the way they ordered the record. It's all, there's like some, you know, greasy intentions behind
Sometimes
it.
it feels like a cash grab. The
Exactly.
production's
Exactly.
sloppy, like, yeah.
Your audience is smarter than you, man.
Mm-hmm.
I like undeniably smarter. And
Right.
if you try to lie to them, they'll leave you. It's just like any relationship, man. Like that's what's going to come back to bite you in the butt. So really all that matters is telling the truth.
Damn, bro. Bars.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah, brother. You started talking about kind of songwriting and producing a little bit. I'd like to know, you know, if you have anything to share about your creative process. Do you have any specific rituals or environments where you feel most creative?
I was reading Rick Rubin's book, and he talks about this idea of doing menial, I might butcher the words a little bit, but the general idea is that if you do menial tasks like going for a walk or driving or taking a shower, it occupies this loud part of your brain that usually is, you know, suppressing the creative part because it's just overpowering it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can like lasso that part of your brain, then the creative part of your brain has this space and the power to speak, and in a meaningful way that you can kind of, like Pressfield says, you can reach into that realm and like grab that stuff.
Right.
That's what I like to do, man. But honestly, I wish I had a better answer. I don't light a candle and sit down with my notepad and write. Like my writing has always been very disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll have a guitar riff, or maybe I'll have one idea for the chorus, or maybe I'll have a song. I'm like, I want to write a song with this title.
Interesting. Okay.
And I'll write a song around that. You know what I mean? And just because I'm like, I know if I can write a good song around this title, then the title will like hit super hard.
Right.
And for me, like, I love songs that have cool titles.
Yeah.
So it's very scattered. I mean, it's like my brain. Like I just, it comes out when it comes out. And lately I've been trying to discipline myself a little bit more. Like, hey, even when it's not fun to write, like sit down and try to write.
Right.
And that's how I've been getting it done recently, because you know what, man, like this brings me to the topic of like the rise and grind mentality. I absolutely fucking hate that shit. Like these creatives that try to put up this facade that they just never are lazy, or they never have doubts, or they never don't want to do it. It's like, dude, I want to fucking...
It's bullshit. You're lying. You're not telling the truth.
Exactly.
You're not telling
you
the
know
truth.
what? Me admitting that I want to just blast Call of Duty all day one day and not do anything with music.
It's
like,
okay to do that.
that's the truth, man.
Yeah, yeah.
If that's my truth, then that's what I want to do. Like,
That's a song right there.
yeah, you do. My KD ratio is absolutely insane.
Facts only.
But I don't...
So, like, when you are writing, and you mentioned it's disjointed, like, where are you pulling this inspiration from? Is it from personal experience? Is it, you know?
Yeah, all the time, man. A lot of my writing comes from the emotions that I have a really hard time making sense of. And historically, for me, a huge emotion that I have written about a lot is my anger. You know,
Okay,
when I was younger, I did have a lot of anger issues, and I think it's like anger is a very complicated emotion for me because I feel a lot of it, and
You don't show it.
well, I've, you know, because I went through it young, I've found ways to cope with it now, and I don't consider myself an angry person anymore because I've, you know, kind of rewired my brain in the way that I can realize like where that's coming from and like kind of get to the source. But there are still a lot of times where I just feel, you know, like profound anger, and not anger to the point where I want to yell, but anger to the point where I want to like fucking terraform the earth. You know what I mean? And like a lot of my writing comes through that. And I have to, that's too big of an idea sometimes to write about. So I have to break it down into smaller categories. It's like, you know, how do I make sense of my anger? Like, and you know, it's made up of a couple different things. You know, one of them may be, I'm angry that I feel self-conscious to wear what I want to wear, or, I'm angry that I get so obsessed with stuff that it slips away, you know? And it's like, I'm angry about things of my own doing, or that I get tunnel vision or whatever. And like, it sucks. And I'm angry because I'm so aware of it, but it's so hard to fix it.
Right.
And so I don't know. So like a lot of my writing is like complex ideas, but I try to put them in let me see if I can phrase this correctly. Like I try to put my complex emotions in simple terms, but use verbiage and vernacular that like gives you the feeling of complexity while still being able to understand it easily.
Right.
Right. And I think someone who does this very well is Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie. Like the words he writes and his word choice is so creative. And you're like, wow, that's a very beautiful and eloquent way to say that. But the idea is so damn simple. Right. And I love that. I always, cool. I'll very often write in really like caveman terms, like no rhymes or anything, just blah, blah, blah. And then go back and be like, I like to look at my writing like an architect. Like I don't like start at point A and finish at point B. I'm like, I'll kind of work at it until it kind of reveals itself. It's like a
painting almost.
Yeah. It's a solid color, and then all of a sudden it's opaque, and then it's a little bit more translucent, and then it becomes clear, it like becomes in focus over time. And that's like, today I wrote the second line of the verse, and then I figured out the guitar chords of the bridge, and then, I think the kick pattern would be good in the intro. Like it's very disjointed, but it's like,
I was always wondering about how musicians kind of like, is there a starting point where you got to start with this?
Yeah. I think it depends. I mean, every person has their own process, but I think what I just described to you is why I have a really hard time writing with other people, because I feel like I work like an octopus, kind of like arms in different areas at all times. And, and this is no disrespect to anybody who writes this way, but like the Nashville style of writing where, you get in a room, you got an instrumental. It's like, all right, let's write the first verse. Then let's write the chorus. It's like, I don't feel music that way anymore. It's like, I used to, that's how I got started. But then when I started exploring these like, weirder sounds and song structure and stuff like that, it's become like, I feel like I have like an omnipotent view of it. I can like see the song. I'm like flying through the sky, I can like see the song on the ground, and it's like, I try to just pick away at different parts at a time. But like I said, everybody has their own process, and like for some people, it's straight through, start to finish, and then for some people, it's like me, where it's just like picking away at different parts. And guess what? Like either one of those processes could yield a great song. Right? It's not. I don't think one is better than the other, but I've had to kind of come to terms with my process, because it's something I've been very insecure about, like the fact that I didn't have this rise and grind mentality of like, every day I write a song, or every day I sit down and write, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't, I like to fill my tank and then gas it. So I'll go through these periods of like, I don't play any shows, I'm just writing. Right, and then I go into the studio and I'm still not playing any shows, and I just record. And then I go play shows for a year. Yeah. And then it's a cycle. I'm like,
I feel like that can be beneficial. You're not burning yourself out. You're like, I'm interested in this right now. Okay, now let's change gears.
Yeah. I think resisting what you're interested to is a way to just kind of stonewall yourself. So it's like, again, telling the truth. Like my truth is, this is what I'm interested in right now. And if that means taking 4 years to write 3 different albums, and 2 of which I'll never record, it's like, so be it. Like, the more you try to like death grip stuff into what you think it should be, it's just, it's not going to work. Right. It's not going to be good.
I think that's a good segue into, when you're stuck, or when you feel a little burnt out, or you're facing a creative block. How do you push through? What do you enjoy doing outside of music?
These days I have more hobbies than I used to. I lost touch with, the Mike Deary advice for a little bit. I was like super hyper focused on music, and I burnt out. So I love to rock climb. Yeah. That's honestly my favorite thing. I love just like being active in general, but rock climbing has become a little bit of a new fixation of mine. And, it's another area where I can explore that like puzzle piece process, but like not in music.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because finding the route and figuring it, like projecting it and everything, like it's very puzzle like, you know, and it's not just about brute strength. Like sometimes it is, but I find it very interesting. It's very cranial.
Strategical kind of?
Yeah, exactly.
And like how you use your energy and
yeah, man. I mean,
parts of your body.
you could be the, you know, 250 pounds of raw muscle, but then, you know, some kid comes in who's 100 pounds soaking wet and goes like right up the wall.
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
It's not about being jacked.
Right.
It's just about, you know, strategy and
I gotta hit the wall, man.
please.
Yeah.
But otherwise, man, it's so funny, man. I feel like we're digging into a lot of my past insecurities with some of these questions, which is not a bad thing. But I used to be so insecure about like having like civilian hobbies. Like I like to go out to eat, or I like to go for walks. You know what I mean? Like dude, this is like young me thought I needed to be this starved genius in a fucking room with no windows. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I just like want to be a person. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I love just being a part of the community here in Atlanta and like just having friends. And I used to think that every time I was with musical people, we needed to talk about music. But now I love when I get together with people and music doesn't come up at all.
Be a good hang.
Be a good hang, dude. It's
yeah.
like, I thought that only applied to music, but no, that applied to my whole life. And I kind of learned that the hard way, man.
Yeah,
So
well, you definitely learned it, brother.
yeah,
It's
thanks.
a weapon.
No, you didn't.
All right, bro. What's been one of the hardest moments in your career so far, and how did that impact you? And also, have you ever had doubts? You kind of mentioned you haven't had doubts, so maybe whack that part.
in the sense that I knew what I wanted to do,
Right.
but within that, there have been many doubts.
True.
I think the hardest point in my career, like, I feel like a lot of my answers to this stuff are very, you know, like philosophical answers. There's not like moment answers.
Right.
But I definitely have. There was a time where I was like about to quit. When I was, I struggled with mental health my whole life. You know, this is something. It's why I gravitated towards music at such a young age. It's one of the reasons. And when I was in, high school and college, I struggled really, really hard with depression. And when the biggest thing in your life, music for me, made so much sense to me, and then here comes this thing that makes no sense, and I don't know how to cope with it. I don't know what angle to attack it from, because it's not necessarily, it's not something you can just beat to death.
Right.
You know, it's a bit more of like a drawn out exit from that. And so I really struggled with that, man. In high school, I struggled with like thoughts of suicide and, just like really, really considered that like seriously. And I don't know where it came from or why it happened. And I've learned that I can't answer that, because trying to answer that is something that plagued me for a really long time.
Right.
But I carried it with me into college, and then ended up getting on medication for it. And there was a point, I think I was still in college. It was towards the later part of college for me. And I decided to do a record at a place I interned at. And essentially I brought all these songs to the table, and I was super confident about all these songs. You know, a lot of these songs had gotten me through a hard time, like writing these songs, especially the way I write, how it's so disjointed. I was like, finally, I'm at a point where these are done, and, you know, and they're tangible and they're in front of me, and I bring them to the table, and they were 10 of the 12 songs were shot down. And
What?
Yeah, essentially I was told that they just weren't good enough. And maybe in the form that they were in at the time, maybe that was the truth. But there was no like vision exercised in that decision. You know, there was not like, I see potential in this. It was like, it's not good now. We're just going to axe it. And that took me out, dude. I mean, these are, one of these songs that got cut was one of the songs that saved me from killing myself, just because I finally got myself to sit down and like make sense of that feeling that was there. And it kind of left my body a little bit through writing this song. And so when that's taken from you and told that it's not good enough, like the self-doubt and the self-confidence issues that become fucking intrinsic in creating were palpable.
It's a world shattering. It's disillusionment.
It was insane, man. And like, I'm not saying that artists like shouldn't go through hard moments like that. I mean, I would never wish hard moments on anybody, but there's some formative times. And this felt like it was like a little past that. It was just fucking hard. And I essentially ended up creating some music. I was very impressionable because I was broken down to such a raw state. And I ended up creating some music that I just was not proud of and couldn't stand by. And it just didn't represent me. And at the time, I should say, and I ended up putting a couple of them out. And I just fucking hated these songs. And it became so tied into my self-worth, like I said, that the idea of creating music was synonymous with thinking lesser of myself. And so it got to a point where I was like, I don't even know if I want to fucking do this anymore. Wow. Like when the thing that keeps your head above the water becomes the thing that's pushing your head below the water, you have no idea what to do in that moment. Right. And I was like, well, I have a couple options here. I can try to push through this and not know if there's an end, or I can fucking kill myself.
Right.
And which is very similar to our Tallulah Gorge bear story. It's like we can, push on and not know if there's a road out of this, or we can turn around and face a bear attack. Like that's very much how this moment felt for me. And
what pulled you out?
People.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, another piece of advice that I got when I was in high school was just surround yourself with good people and everything will be okay. And I think that was the one thing I had to latch onto at that moment. And at the time I had moved to Syracuse. And I had just some great friends, man, that I don't know whether it was through, a couple too many
beverages.
Yeah. Where I was like, hey, speaking of songs, I have some songs, but this dark time in my life, you want to hear these songs? And like, I ended up showing my friends, I'm like, dude, you got to finish this record. Like, and we ended up bringing back most of the songs that had gotten cut. And like, I remember there was 4 people that were really involved in this record.
This Mirror Talk?
This is Mirror Talk Blue. And I would like to name these people because these
Absolutely.
are 4 incredibly important people in my life. It was Nigel Croston, who was my drummer at the time. It was Tristan Jarvis, who was my bass player and who co-produced the record with me. Lorenzo Maldonado, who has been one of my best friends forever. And Justin Spalding, who mixed and, somewhat produced the record on the back end. He had a lot of creative input with the mixing. And these were the 4 guys that just pulled me out of this dark place, man, and convinced me to finish this record. And this span of time that I'm talking about is 4 years from starting this record to finishing it. And it was a grueling process with my deepest blues in the middle at the 2-year mark,
right?
Where it almost all went south. And I learned a lot from that experience, and I am eternally grateful for those people that pulled me out. But all of that became my second record. And it's why I can't really listen to that record anymore. I don't even consider that a record by me as an artist. It like became something more than that. And so I don't really play any of those songs live. It's just, it's something I just like don't really touch anymore.
Right, right.
It played such a role in my life, and it had such a time and an era that I'm not trying to go back to that. And to play those songs and to attempt to play some of those songs live would, unfortunately,
Is it traumatic?
yeah, a little bit. And not necessarily because of what I'm singing about, but just the context of those songs. And, you know, some of those songs have very traumatic meanings. And there was this this like the darker side of divine providence when I was writing a lot of those songs where I'm writing, but I didn't realize the meaning that the lyrics were going to take on until later. You know, specifically there's this one song called Someone Who Loved Me. And I wrote, it's about like pushing people away. Like I had this incredible thing in my hands and I let it go intentionally. How could I have been so foolish? Like that kind of thing. And at the time I was like in a relationship and it was going well. And like, I remember after we broke up, you know, this was maybe a year after the song had been written, all of a sudden these lyrics start to make a lot of sense. And that's been a theme for a lot of my writing and a lot of the songs that I continue to write. I'll write them in the moment. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, like higher powers were at play there.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's just a constant reminder that, you know, it comes through me, not from me.
Right.
And
I love that.
yeah, man, it was a fucking dark time. And that was I definitely consider myself, you know, a fairly confident person musically. And, you know, at this point, I know who I am and where I want to live as a musician, but dude, it could not have been more opposite at that time. And, I was just a shell of a person, dude. It was crazy. Like it was so low and like the things that were taken from me and then the things that were given back, it was like, it was emotional whiplash, man. It was crazy. But when all that happens over a long period of time, you almost like don't see it happening in the moment. And I don't know, dude, it was scary for a while. And, that was around the time I had to stop smoking weed because every time I listened to my own music when I was high, and not that I sat around listening to my own music when I was high, but like, you know, I'd be playing along and all of a sudden one of my songs would come up because they're on Spotify and like, I'd be like, oh my God, this sucks. I sound like shit, blah, blah, blah. Cause like, again, like self-doubt and self-worth issues became, you know, like the rapping that was on my songs. And sucked that that's what it became about for me. So I was like, if fucking smoking weed is a source of my problems right now, then I'm going to stop doing that. And that was kind of the first step in my sobriety journey. I mean, I drank heavily for years after quitting that, before quitting alcohol too. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a time, man.
Well, thanks for sharing, man. That was pretty heavy.
Yeah. Honestly, if like, people should know that they're not the only ones going through that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? No matter how successful you think someone is. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm like super successful, but no matter at what point in someone's career you think they're at, whether you think that's successful or not, like people are going through shit, man.
Absolutely.
And it's oftentimes stuff you don't see.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like to think that 12 songs on a record is a good way to get to know me, but like in that case, it's not. Like people have no idea what happened during the creation of that record. And maybe they can hear it through the music. Again, like I'm too close to it. I don't know. But yeah, it's a weird time, dude.
Well, all right, let's change gears. What's something you're particularly proud of in your music career? Whether, you know, it could be a song, an achievement, a breakthrough. Something jump out at you.
I'm hesitant to measure my success by like literal things that happened. Which is honestly a toxic trait of mine. Like I don't let myself celebrate the little wins, but I've had a couple songs on TV shows. I've gotten to score some films. I've played a lot of great shows. I've toured a couple times. One of those film scores won an award at a film festival for the best score. Like I have stuff I'm proud of, but honestly, the thing I'm most proud of is that I've like found the truth in all of it and that I didn't, fall into this path of trend chasing or losing myself, you know, because I could have continued down that path in that dark time. And I was lucky enough to have people around me that helped me out of that, like I said. And you know, I don't mean to sound super woo woo, but like it helped me find the truth, man.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I'm most proud of. I'm proud of myself for still being here, you know, alive, because it almost wasn't that way for a little bit.
So
And
glad you are.
I'm proud of myself for putting myself out there with some of the things that I've done and making myself vulnerable. And I'm proud of myself for letting people in on the process. That's very hard for me. And I'm proud of the work that I've been blessed to create with others. You know, I feel like it's this like collective pride that I get to share with people. So I think that would probably be the most, the thing of highest magnitude.
That's amazing.
In that sense.
That's awesome, dude. Proud of you.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate it.
You got any big dreams for the future? Could be music, could be beyond.
Like I was talking about before, I'm trying to exercise all parts of my life. But I'm getting better at like writing down my goals, you know. I really want to continue to take care of my body and take care of my mind. That's like first and foremost.
Right.
And I want to be vocal and hold myself accountable about like goals that are like tangible, like physical single things. Like, you know, I want to start selling out shows. I want to play bigger shows. I want to play to more people. I want more people to hear my music. Like those are my goals.
Right.
And I have systems in place that are going to get me there.
Yeah.
And, my goal again is just to continue to do it right and to serve others and remember what this is all about. Like it's about serving the greater good and improving the human condition through art. And that goes beyond music. You know what I mean? Like a good song and a smile and a wave to someone on the street can hold the same effect.
Bang.
In a day. So you have to exercise that light in all parts of your life. And, you know, someone told me not so long ago that I asked them, I was like, you know, how do you do it? How do you find gratitude in these moments? And they said, I let light and God, this was a religious person. They said, I let light and God enter the room first. And then I will occupy that space. But I never occupy space before my light does. And that had a profound effect on the way I see all this stuff, man. So it's about more than music. It's about more than art. It's just about, you know, leading with that light. And so that's a goal of mine, is to just continue to do that and to get better at it. You know, it's something I can always improve at. But, you know, just to walk the walk, man.
I love it, man. Real quick. Dream collaborator, dead or alive?
Shit. This is such a hard question. I would love to do something with Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. I mean, he's one of my biggest influences right now. And I think he's a genius when it comes to like just arranging music and composing music and making things sound insane. And
were you
like,
just watching him when I walked in the setup?
I was watching them live at a festival. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of his. So that would probably be my first.
Word up.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really have a good answer for that question.
Right,
I'm always like, I don't know.
That's
my
a great
friends.
answer.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self when you're starting out, knowing what you know now? I would something simple.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably just tell myself to take your time.
Yeah.
Not to rush to be something so quickly, because again, you don't have the power to do that.
Right.
You can't teach yourself what time can teach you. So
it's hard.
Yeah, I tried to beat time as a younger kid and a young musician, and I tried to bite off more than I could chew. And it, parts of that got me to where I am today, but could I have avoided some hardship and struggle had I eased up on that a little bit? Absolutely. So I'd probably just tell myself to freaking relax, dude.
Yeah.
Just like serve others, and you don't have to be in the middle of the room to be seen.
Right.
Dude. a presence felt is better than a body seen.
Bang.
Like
You have a great
genuinely
presence,
feel
man. You have a real
Thank you.
awesome presence.
Thank you.
As someone who knows you and is your friend, who has gone to your shows and has seen you do that thing, I've been awe-inspired by you performing. You're such a great performer.
Thank you.
And it's one of those things where, like, you know, you'll come down, give me a hug after the show, and I feel like I'm hugging a rock star. And then it's like,
That's crazy.
that's my boy that I was just farting in the kitchen with.
That's right.
God level. Is there anything else you want to talk about music-wise?
I don't know if there's anything specifically music-wise. I'm definitely, you know, would like to express my gratitude to anyone that has given me a chance.
Yeah.
I try to take every opportunity I get at face value and not wish it was more than it was. Just be grateful for what it is.
You've played some empty rooms, right?
I've played mostly empty rooms, man. And you know what? Every empty room I play is building my gratitude for when there's people in the room.
Absolutely.
So you know what? Keep it fucking coming.
love
We're
it.
going to keep doing it because that's not why we're doing it.
Right.
You know,
I love that.
but damn, it's nice when you got a full room, man. I will say,
For sure.
feels good.
If you could be any animal for a day, bro, what animal would you be and how would you spend the day?
Without question. Black bear.
For real?
Probably spend the day chilling, eating. I don't know, dude. Probably just walk around.
Yeah.
Imagine what it's like to
You're bear, bro.
just
Scratch your
walk
back.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Probably roll around on my back a little bit. I'd probably send my cubs to block some hikers from getting back to their car in the parking lot. Yeah, man. I want the simple life of a bear.
Hell yeah. Baloo style. Tell me about your dream house, bro. Money isn't a factor. Where is it? Talk about some of the amenities in the crib.
Oh, that's such a good question. Fuck, it's a porta potty. No, I'm just kidding. My dream house, geographically, it's definitely remote.
So in the mountains?
Close to the mountains.
I was going to ask you, are you on the water guy or an in the mountains guy?
I'm more of a wilderness guy than a water guy. I want my house to have like a log cabin style.
I love that.
Yeah, I want it to feel like a log cabin, but obviously bigger.
Right.
I want a full recording studio in the basement.
Of course.
Warm lighting, no overhead lighting. I want I want the kitchen and the living room to be like one open thing, and I want a sunken I don't know what you call it. It's like a sunken couch. You know, it's like in the floor, and there's a fire pit in the middle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is there a sauna in the crib?
There's 2 saunas. Yeah, dude. There's a gym. There's a sauna. I want it to be the type of thing where like my friends can come and just stay there and be just completely taken care
So
of.
comfortable.
Yeah. The fridge is a walk-in fridge.
Oh, walking, baby.
There's a freaking grill out back. We got like a whole grilling section, man.
Hell
And
yeah,
then
bro.
like just a ton of property, and you know we have some 4-wheelers we can just dick around on, and
play some airsoft, man.
that's right, dude. Yeah, just do whatever, man,
Hell
and just
yeah,
live peacefully out in the wilderness. And
Can't wait.
because growing up like camping and community through that, and through like physical closeness of that, you know, a campfire brings people like that was such a huge part of my life. So like I want to carry that into my home, and I want to design it in a way that fosters that kind of environment. Like not a lot of walls in my home. You know what I mean? At least on the first floor.
I love it, bro.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Last question I got for you as we wrap it up here. The plane's going down.
Oh, shit.
You've lived a good life.
Yep.
You accept your fate. All right. You figure you got a few minutes before impact. You got your headphones on. What's the last song you play in this life? The last thing your ears ever hear? What are you going out to?
That's a brutal question.
It's the toughest question ever.
There's a lot of things to consider here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the last thing you ever hear. Can I answer it myself?
please,
and I'll let you go. For me, because I've thought a little bit about it. I don't know if I have an exact song, but it's not going to be a sad song.
Okay.
Because I feel like that would just be like, you know, if I'm listening to Hello Darkness, my old friend, as the plane's going down. Like,
Oh God, it's here.
it would probably be some like fucking Thunderstruck, like fucking yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
something to gas me up a little bit, like fuck it.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's great. Fuck it, we're going down. Honestly, I might lean more towards the melancholy side. I'm probably gonna go with a song that is a little bit sad, but is like, it's like that. We're gonna die, but like it's just a part of it, man. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Man, it's a hard question.
Yeah.
My immediate thought was "Same Old Blues" by Freddie King.
Okay.
That's always been one of my favorite songs. I can't think of a better answer than that, man.
That's a
honestly,
tough one. Yeah.
in the last
You don't have
moment.
to give it. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking.
That's a had to throw a curveball at you.
Wanted to listen to like "In the Arms of an Angel," fucking Sarah McLachlan going on, like, you know. But no, you know what? I'm gonna stick by that answer. I'm gonna say "Same Old Blues" by Freddie King.
Love it. Great answer.
Yeah, we'll bump it in the outro.
All right, dog. I'm gonna give you the floor here. Anything you want to say to the listeners? Anything else you want to mention? Aaron Rizzo.
Shit, man. Eat whole foods and tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, it's really that simple. It really is, man. I think, yeah, especially after that question you said of like, what would you go back and tell your younger self, man? It's like, it's so much simpler than we make it out to be. Don't ever give up having fun with doing shit, because like, you know, in the words of Theo Katzman, in 100 years, all new people.
Dude, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, every like insecurity and little fear I have, like, fuck that.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna die soon.
Right. Life is too damn short, man. Like every fucking second is a blessing. And whether you want to thank God or thank the universe or thank the tree out back for giving you life, man, whatever it is, that's cool. But just like be aware of it. You know what I mean? Take it in and like, don't use that to be nihilistic about stuff, but like be like, oh, life is short. Let me, you know, wear those weird pants that I really like, but I'm afraid of people thinking they're weird. Like, let me, you know, sing that weird song, or like make a fool of myself at karaoke, or live sober, or have a drink with, you know, your grandparents, or like whatever, man. Like,
Right.
I don't know. It's like, I love this quote of, I heard it from Michael Smoke from the Higher Up podcast, but I can't remember who originally said it. Maybe we can link it down below, but they said fear is an ocean that's a mile wide and an inch deep.
Love that.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. It's like everything is so much worse in our head than we make it out to be. So just, my parting words are kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Like, yeah, it's not complicated. Just have fun.
Just have fun and tell the truth.
That's right. Tell the truth. Bang!